Hello there everybody and welcome back to Movie Scream. Today I'm going to be doing a very special video. It's my top 30 horror movies of all time. Yes, these are what I think are the best of the best in my favourite movie genre. And this list is not going to be the same as your list. I mean, it's all about opinions. So if your favourite film is not on this list, I don't know what else to tell you. I've either never seen it or I just don't agree that it's in the top 30. So it's all about opinion. So leave your top 10, 20, 30, top 3 even down below in the comments and I'll get back to you all and we can have a little bit of a discussion going. But I've had this list solidified on my Letterboxd for quite a while now, and it's always been a 30. You know, I've never really added any more to it as of late, and I thought, you know what, this is a chance to do a top 30 horror movie video. So if you want to follow me on Letterboxd, you can see all my other movie rankings and lists on there. I'll leave the link down below. So let's just get into it now with the first movie on this list in 30th place. Now first we do have Halloween 2. Yes, this sequel, the first sequel to very, very many sequels in this horror franchise. Now I used to watch this on VHS a couple of times back in the day. I had it on a double bill video with Halloween and Halloween 2. And I hadn't really seen it for quite a while after that. It was only a couple of years ago I went back and watched the entire Halloween franchise, and I was absolutely blown away by how much I loved it this time around. I always liked it anyway, but this time around it really stood out to me as one of the best horror slashers or horror slasher sequels ever made. I mean, you got this first 25 minutes of Michael just stalking the streets of Haddonfield. It really works. There's some really nice directional choices in there. Not as great as John Carpenter's Halloween, but the over-the-shoulder movements where Michael's just walking around towards the hospital, and then we do have it all taking place in this hospital, which is one of the creepiest locations for a horror movie to take place. It all just works, and it uses the location to its advantage. There's some great kills in this movie, using a lot of hospital tools, but one of my favorites has to be the boiling bathtub scene. And then later on in the movie, we do get a little bit of backstory between Laurie Strode and Michael, that they are actually siblings, and that's quite a shocker. A lot of people don't like that about the film, but I think it does actually enhance the first one a little bit, because it gives even more reason for Michael to be coming to Haddonfield and coming after Laurie and going to the hospital after her again. So it's just a really fun slasher, I think, a really solid one, and it just does a lot of things right. I had a lot of fun with Halloween 2, I really did, and it's got to be in my top 30. So that is Halloween 2. Next up, we do have Final Destination. Now, the more I watch this movie, the more I think it's quite genius the way it works. It's a slasher movie with an invisible slasher killer, really, and it just comes up with so many creative ways to kill off the characters that can just be done in your everyday life. You know, you can they're made to look like accidents, really. But what this movie is about these group of students who are going to France with the school, and one of them, Alex, the main character, played by Devon Sawyer, has a premonition when he gets on the plane that this plane is going to crash, and he decides to get off the plane. A few people believe him and get off with him, and as the plane takes off, it blows up, and death, because they've cheated death, the Grim Reaper is coming after them one by one, really, because they were part of Death's plan. It's just a real great concept for a movie. And I've got to be honest, guys, I think this is the greatest horror movie opening scene of all time. Yes, even better than Scream. I done our top 10 horror movie openings, which I'll leave down below, and this was actually number 1. That first 15 minutes has always terrified me. It's probably the scariest part of any horror movie for me. Just psychologically, like every time I get on a plane now, this movie pops into my head because of that opening scene, the atmosphere, the music, you know, it's just real haunting to me, and it's something that could happen in everyday life, although it's probably going to be very rare. But it just gives me the ick. And the rest of the movie as well is excellent. I love all the creative kills in this film. It spawned a franchise, of course. We're getting a new one soon. Can't wait for that. But Final Destination is an excellent film. And an ending where you're just like, holy shit. really? So yeah, Final Destination is in there as well. Next up we have Hellraiser. Now you may be forgiven for wondering where the main guy on the front of this poster is for all the runtime when you first watch this film, and you will be correct to think that because he only really shows up for the last 20 minutes, does old Pinhead. But this is basically a movie, a romance movie with a dark backstory to it, really. We follow Julia and her new husband who move into this house, but her ex-lover, who sort of disappeared a while ago, comes back into the house, and he's like this real skeleton looking guy, and he needs to feed off humans to become human again. And Julia sets out and brings people back to the house, mostly guys. She brings them back to the house, you know, it lures them in with sexual, you know, his sexual advances, only for Frank to kill these people and sort of feed off them, and he becomes more human and comes back from the dead, really, back from the gates of hell. But Pinhead and his Cenobites are on the hunt for him because he's sort of escaped, really.
We'll tear your soul apart.
So it's a real imaginative film, a great concept, and there's some real gruesome moments in this movie as well. You got some real dark characters within Frank and Julia herself, who's the real villain of this movie. I think she's just a sinister bitch, really. But the design of the Cenobites and everything when they eventually turn up on screen is awesome. You know, straight from the imagination of Clive Barker there. I just think this is a really good, dark, twisted fantasy horror that, you know, just does something totally different, especially for the time. And that's, again, spawned a massive franchise. I think a lot of these horror movies did. But Hellraiser 1, for me, out of all the ones I have seen, is definitely the best. And I had to put it on here. Next up, we have The Omen. Yes, a tale about Satan's son and the second coming of Satan, really. So basically, this family adopt this young boy, and he is the devil's son, but they don't know that yet. But when this kid is starting to get a little bit older, you know, like 6 and 7, weird things start to happen, and, you know, the atmosphere starts to build throughout the movie. And there's just something not right with this kid. Like when they're driving to church, he's screaming and shouting. He doesn't want to go in there. And there's this like Rottweiler that's always coming around and just sort of showing up. And every time it does, something sinister happens around Damien. Like the nanny in this movie hangs herself on Damien's birthday party, saying, "This is all for you, Damien." What an iconic scene that is. So really, it's all part of Satan's plan that when Damien goes older, he's going to conquer the earth, basically. And there are people who are warning these parents who have adopted Damien, and they just don't want to know. They don't want to believe that their child is really this evil presence. And the movie just sort of escalates from there. There's some real horrible moments in this movie, especially the spire going through that priest, and also David Warner's head being taken off by a pane of glass. I mean, they're just iconic horror movie moments, aren't they? And like I said, there's a bit of an atmosphere here. You feel the evil within this movie. The first hour is expertly paced. I mean, it absolutely flies by. I do think the second half slows down a little bit when we're uncovering all the mystery of Damien and stuff, but it's still a good second half of the film. So it's an absolute classic, The Omen, one of the staples of horror from the 70s. And of course, I was going to put it in here. It's a real smart movie, this one. Next up, we have Rosemary's Baby, and this is the perfect example of the waiting game, but good things come to those who wait. So we see Mia Farrow, who plays Rosemary, and her husband move into this apartment, and the people who live in all the other rooms on her floor and stuff, they're very over friendly, but she thinks they're just being nice and stuff, and she gets to know all these people, all their neighbours, but her husband seems to take a little bit more of a liking to them than her, and there's something just a little bit off about it. And this movie really is slow paced, even though it doesn't drag. it takes its time to tell a story, but it's a story you get engrossed in. And this movie is all paid off in the last 10 minutes, and it's just so worth it. You get fully invested, you're wondering what's going on, you're intrigued, you're scratching your head a little bit, especially the first time you watch it. But when that last 10 minutes comes, man, you're just like, holy shit, that was worth the wait. So it's one of them movies. It's a little bit different than the other films on this list, but I just appreciate the storytelling in Rosemary's Baby. And Mia Farrow is absolutely excellent in this film. What a performance from her. You feel really sorry for her. She's just this little sweet young lady, but is she being taken advantage of by certain characters? You know, you really do connect to her and you feel bad for her and you want her to get out of this situation unharmed. So it's a character you really connect to. So great performance from her as well. But Rosemary's Baby, another absolute classic from 1968. Coming in 25th place, we do have the original A Nightmare on Elm Street. Wes Craven thought up this idea because he read something about people dying in their sleep, and he based all the character of Freddy on his childhood bully, which I just think is awesome. The way he really took all these elements from life that he'd seen and put them all together. But this basically is following Nancy, who lives on Elm Street, and a few of her friends have been killed in their sleep, and she's going to get to the bottom of it, and she realizes that it's this guy called Freddy Krueger who's coming for the teenagers in the street in their sleep because their parents burnt him years earlier, and he's coming back for a little bit of revenge. And what a design Freddy is, you know, with the burnt face, the hat, the dirty striped jumper, played amazingly by Robert Englund here. And I think this first film is a real solid entry into the franchise. You know, it just started again, another franchise there, but we've got a great final girl in Heather Langenkamp here, who is probably my favourite final girl out of all the horror movies that I've seen. And she really takes it to Freddy in the third act. We've got some great kill scenes here. Johnny Depp just being sucked into the bed and the blood just splurting all over the place. But it really does give you a fear of going to sleep, because you're thinking, it's not something I can escape from. I can't stay awake forever. And when I go to sleep, I'm going to meet this absolute madman in my dreams. That is a terrifying concept, especially for the time in 1984. And Freddy, an icon, was born here, wasn't it? So A Nightmare on Elm Street, absolute classic, has to be in here. Next up, we have Child's Play 2. And now a few people might be a little bit shocked at this one. Why isn't Child's Play 1 in there? But I just think that Child's Play 2 has Chucky at his absolute best. Chucky and Freddy are my favourite horror icons, but sometimes I lean towards Chucky as being my favourite just a little bit more, just because how entertaining this guy is on screen with all his murderous one-liners before he kills people and stuff. But this is Chucky at his best. Child's Play 2, I think they get the balance perfect here, and they know they had something in Child's Play 1, but they absolutely ran with it in Child's Play 2. And this basically sees Andy Barclay going to live with his adoptive parents, but Chucky follows him there, and the movie just does not stop. It's only like an 85-minute film. It absolutely flies by, but there's always something happening. It's always entertaining. There's a kill round every corner. Chucky is just, man, he just makes me laugh so much in this film.
Just shut up and drive before I kick your fucking teeth in.
You know, I love the part where Phil, the adoptive parent, just does not believe that this Chucky doll is alive, despite Andy telling him constantly. And then when Phil gets caught upside down before Chucky's about to break his neck, he just says, "How's it hanging, Phil?" You know, he's just a real evil bastard, Chucky. I love the way he takes on Beth Grant's character, who's just a bitch in every movie that we see her in, and just smashes the shit out of her with a cane. "You've been very naughty, Miss Callowell." And we get a great third act here in the toy factory. God, I loved how Chucky is just absolutely raging when he can't get his own way. He sticks the knife on his hand and stuff. He just looks awesome. I love the puppet design. Chucky is just a great design of a character. He looks like the real evil doll, doesn't he? and Brad Dourif just does the voice brilliantly as usual. So Child's Play 2, it's just a film I can throw on anytime and have a lot of fun with it. I've watched this so many times throughout my life. It's just a real entertaining slasher and one of the best horror sequels ever made. So that is Child's Play 2. Next up, we have Stephen King's It from 1990. Yes, I know this is a mini-series, but I've kind of cheated here because I like to see it as a fully fledged film. I wasn't alive when it came onto the TV, or I might have been 2 years old. I think I was like 2 years old. So I just got the VHS and I watched it as a film. And despite this being 3 hours long, I used to watch it all the time as a kid. It was one I used to throw on constantly, and the runtime never really bothered me. I used to think this movie just used to fly by, and I was always fascinated by Pennywise, the way he looked with this big white face and this red hair, these big yellow and orange buttons. You know, Tim Curry just got this character down to a T. But the story is where it's really at here, where we're in this town called Derry in Maine, where Stephen King bases most of his stories, let's be honest. And all of the kids are having trouble with this entity that is sort of lived there in the form of this clown, Pennywise, of course. But I love how we have this group of friends, and the first half of the movie, or TV series, goes through each encounter that they had on a personal level with the clown. And it's always entertaining, but around that as well, it also builds the story and the connectivity of friendship. So, you know, we see one character's version of it and then the next version, but it's already been built upon around the friendship of this Lucky Seven group, basically. And then the second half of the film, the characters have to come back to defeat Pennywise, because every 27 years, he needs to feed on children, basically, and he's still lurking in Derry, Maine. Now, a lot of people don't like the second half of the movie, but it's really grew on me over the years. I will say the spider scene at the end is pathetic and terrible, and it's not really Tommy Lee Wallace's fault, the director. If you watch the documentary, Pennywise, the story of it will all be explained there. But before that, everything before that, I really do think there's some great stuff in there, especially when Beverly Marsh goes back to her old house. That's a real creepy moment with that old woman and stuff, you know. And I think overall, apart from the last 10 minutes, it's a pretty solid movie / series throughout. So I've always enjoyed it. You know, it's one of them. I just love it. I definitely prefer it over the remake. I think there's a little bit too much CGI in the remake for my liking personally, but nostalgia does play a big part as well, I suppose. The remake isn't bad. I just prefer the 1990 version. So that is it. Next up, we have An American Werewolf in London. Now, this is a movie that quite scared me a lot as a kid, but this basically follows David and his friend who are backpacking across the moors, and they encounter this werewolf, basically. And one of them is killed, and David is bitten, and he's slowly becoming this werewolf. This thing is taking over himself, and he can't get out of this nightmare, basically. And there's a little bit of a romance in there with Jenny Agutter's character, who sort of takes him under her wing and lets him come and live with her. But it's just not enough. I mean, it's a tragic tale of something that he just can't escape from. And there's so many nightmarish scenes in this movie. I mean, these are the parts that used to scare me as a kid, where David's just having these mad dreams after he's been bitten, where these Nazi pig characters are coming in and just shooting all of his family, and then there's other times where he's running through the woods and he's just eating animals raw and stuff like that. You know, it's quite horrifying to watch. It's scary imagery, put it that way. And the werewolf transformation scene, my God, man, that has never been better than it's, like 40 years later now? I mean, 50 years later even. So yeah, the practical effects in this movie are just off the scale. So I like it the way it all takes place in London as well. You know, it just feels a little bit, it just gives it that extra nounce, I think. I mean, it's a great title, An American Werewolf in London, and John Landis, you know, directed the shit out of this film. So yeah, I think this is an excellent movie. Has to be on there. Not my favourite werewolf film of all time. It's my second. You'll see what's first in just a second. Number 21 is probably going to be one of the most popular horror movies on this list, and that is Scream, directed by Wes Craven. Now, Wes Craven tinkered with this idea of reinventing the slasher genre with Wes Craven's New Nightmare, but I think he just perfected it a couple of years later with Scream. And this is basically a slasher movie that makes fun of itself, but it just finds a perfect balance. Basically, a bunch of high schoolers are being killed by this Ghostface character, but this is like a time where the slasher movie was dying. We had so many of them in the 80s, and people were just getting a little bit fed up. Wes Craven came along with this and just brought it all back, baby. He really did. And it's just a real smart film. One of the most horrifying horror openings of all time in this movie, with Drew Barrymore, who's on the poster art of this movie, and you think she's going to be in it for the long haul, and after 20 minutes she's gutted and hung from a tree. I mean, it's real hard-hitting stuff. But the Ghostface character, you know, I've always liked him in all the movies. It's a different person every time, but it's always the same voice and the same dark humour. You know, that just all works.
Do you want to die, Sydney? Your mother sure didn't.
You got Neve Campbell's character here, who plays Sydney, who is a lot of people's favourite final girl, and the characters in this movie really work well together. You know, you got her, Gail Weathers, you know, Dewey, you know, the fantastic trio there, if you like. And I just think this movie is just so much fun. Now, we've got Stu Macher, who is definitely my favourite Scream franchise character of all time. He just makes this film. He's just so funny in this film. I absolutely love Scream. You know, it's got an ending as well. The first time you watch it, you're just totally thrown off. Like, I just did not see that coming. It was very, very clever what it was doing, and especially for the time. So, yeah, I mean, I think everyone watching this video has seen Scream, but if you haven't, please give it a watch. It's an absolute genius movie. You know, you got Randy there throwing all the rules of the horror movies out, and I think that's one of the best things about the film. Because when he's saying all these rules and stuff, you realise that it is actually true. And Scream just came along and confirmed all of that. So, yeah, another one that started off a great franchise, and possibly the strongest horror franchise out there. Next up, we do have The Wolfman. Yes, my favourite werewolf movie of all time. Now, what I love about this, it's just got that real classic universal monster feel to it. If you think of a werewolf movie, and some of the things that will pop into your head, like full moons and misty woods, it's all in there. The set design on this movie is one of my favourite things about it. You know, it's just got that real warm, classic horror feeling to it. And we've got Lon Chaney Jr.'s character here, who's trying to start a little bit of a romance with this woman in some cringy ways at times. But he becomes this werewolf. And it's a real tragic tale of the man within the monster, really. You really do feel for this guy. But, you know, it's like American Werewolf in London. This thing has just took control, and there's not really much that he can do about it. Not the best transformation scene going by today's standards, but it's still got one of them in there, you know, another thing you think of with a werewolf movie. So, and I just love the feel of it. I can't really explain it too much. It's just a great feeling when you watch it. You know you're watching a classic horror monster story. And The Wolfman is probably, along with The Invisible Man, my favourite Universal monster movie. Everything just works, and Lon Chaney doing it is just excellent in this film. I love all the little gypsy tales that's going on as well within the film. You know, that all works. And at 70 minutes, this movie just absolutely flies by. It's just so quick, but, you know, so joyful at the same time. So that is The Wolfman. Next up, we do have Jaws. Now, this is a psychological horror, really, that made people scared to go into the sea. Me, scared to go on planes because of Final Destination, is what Jaws did for people on beaches, basically. And Steven Spielberg, with his, the first real blockbuster, put it out there on screens in 1976, I believe. And, it still scares people to this day for going into the water. It hasn't dated, it hasn't aged a day, really. And this basically sees the shark attacking this seaside town. And a lot of people are starting to get a little bit wary because a lot of people are being killed by this thing or going missing. But there's a little bit of a political standoff because the mayor is still wanting the beaches to remain open because it's the biggest, it's the summer and a lot of people are coming to spend their money. It's a great tourist attraction that they have. But Chief Brody is sort of pushing against that, and there's a little bit of a lock of heads there, so it's a good political drama in the background, really. And the second half of the film basically sees the three main characters go out to hunt this shark. So it's a film of two halves. I do prefer the first half a little bit better, but the second half is still great as well. There's a jump scare scene in this movie that just puts a lot of jump scares that come out today to absolute shame. I always forget it's going to happen when I watch the film. The shark isn't really shown until about the midpoint, which is a genius touch from Steven Spielberg. It just keeps you in suspense. The score from John Williams is epic. It's just so simple, but totally works. And Steven Spielberg even said that this movie wouldn't work as well if it wasn't for that score. 70% of this film is the score. So it's a great film, Jaws. It's one that a lot of people love, and I had to put it on this list, of course. So that is Jaws. Next up, we have The Hitcher. Now, this is a real tense movie, man. I watched this years ago on VHS, and then I recently picked up the Blu-ray a few years ago, and I've watched it many times since, and every time I watch it, it just grows on me. But this has got to have one of my favorite horror movie villains of all time, and John Ryder, played by Rutger Hauer. Now, he is just so villainous in this movie, man. You can't take your eyes off him. Basically, this guy just picks up this hitchhiker. The hitchhiker is Rutger Hauer, and it's the worst mistake he ever could have made because Rutger Hauer just will not leave this guy alone. And it's a real horrifying road trip film. Like, every time this C. Thomas Howell thinks he's getting rid of Rutger Hauer, he just comes back in a much more menacing way. And there's a real supernatural feeling about Rutger Hauer here because you're scratching your head a few times going, how the hell is this guy doing this? There's something about him that just makes him even more scary, really. But, man, when Rutger Hauer's looking into people's eyes in this film, man, you're just like, holy shit, shit's about to go down here. There's a moment where he escapes from a police, a prison or a police compound, and my God, man, the blood that he leaves in his trail, and John Ryder just enjoys destroying people's lives. I really love that moment where C. Thomas Howell is just picking up them chips, and next minute he picks a finger up. And of course, we cannot forget that scene where a certain character is pulled apart by two trucks. I mean, holy shit. It's a non-stop thrill ride. I mean, after about 10 minutes, we're already into the action, and it doesn't let up. It's an on-the-road film that keeps going, basically. So, yeah, The Hitcher, man. I absolutely love this film, and I can't wait for this new 4K to come out, so I'm going to be grabbing that. So that is The Hitcher. Next up is Frailty. This is a movie I tell everyone to watch when they say, have you got any film recommendations? Because every time I talk to people about this film, they really haven't seen it. It's only people online that I see really talk about it, and even that is far and few between. So this is a film that my dad actually put me on years ago. He kept telling me to watch it. I was like, oh, I don't know. I was humming and hawing, and when I finally watched it, I was blown away by how good it was. Now, this is directed by and starring Bill Paxton, who you'll know from Aliens, of course, and lots of other great movies, True Lies. He's a great actor, but, rest in peace, Bill Paxton. You are sorely missed. But this is probably my favourite or second favourite role of his, just after Aliens there. And this sees him as this father of two boys. He's a single father. He lives in this, farmhouse. And he is visited by an angel one day. And this angel says, you are going to have to go and do God's work, because these people around us, like some of them, are demons disguised as humans, and you've got to do God's work and kill these demons. And he goes home and tells his two boys about this, and the younger boy thinks, I'm with your dad, God, I can't wait to do God's work, and is siding with him. And the other boy thinks he's an absolute psychopath. And what ensues after that is Bill Paxton going out to kill these demons. And you don't quite know who to believe, you don't know which side to be on, which kid is right and which kid is wrong, because there's a lot of religious evidence there to say that Bill Paxton is in the right, but there's a lot of literal evidence to say that he's an absolute maniac. So it's got that real devil on each shoulder vibe going for it there, and it's got an absolutely brilliant ending. Like the ending and the way this movie finishes, that's what blew me away. But the whole entire film is fantastic. If you haven't seen Frailty, I highly recommend it. It's such an underrated gem, and for me, it's one of the greatest horror movies ever made. So that is Frailty. Next up, we have The Exorcist, a film I reviewed on the channel a few months ago, and upon watching it again, it just appreciated it even more. I've always liked The Exorcist, but again, this is another movie that just grows on me. Now, William Friedkin really done something masterful here. It's a movie that terrified audiences back in 1973, and I can see why. Now, today's standard, it's not as scary, but when I was watching this film, I was just thinking, yeah, I can see why people were really terrified by that. Basically, this young girl, Reagan, is possessed by this demon called Pazuzu, and as the movie goes on, she is slowly turning into this monster, really. And that's one of my favorite things about the film, the slow transformation of Reagan, from really sweet, innocent girl to something not quite right to, absolute demon there.
You motherfucking worthless cocksucker.
And now her mother just really can't get, you can see the pain on her face. She just wants to really help her daughter, and nothing or no one seems to have the answers. And she's getting really, really frustrated, about all of this. So she calls in this priest to come and deal with it. She thinks exorcism is a last resort, but she will go to many lengths to do that. And there's some real horrifying things in this movie. When Reagan's doing a scorpion walk down the stairs, which wasn't in the theatrical release because they weren't really able to digitalize and make the wires disappear, but you've definitely got to be watching the director's cut for that scene because it's absolutely horrifying, And one thing that really got to me on this rewatch was the whole story about the director who's always drunk, and you don't know whether he fell down the stairs or if Reagan actually pushed him out the window. And we find the answer out when Reagan turns her head round and does this director's voice and just says, "Do you know what she did, your daughter?" in his voice, and it just confirms that she actually pushed him. So that for me is the scariest part of the movie. But yeah, an iconic horror film, and it's just a really well written, really well built story with great characters in there as well. So for me, I had to put The Exorcist in there, man. Next up, we have Train to Busan. Now, this is a movie that lives up to its name by being a very, very fast-paced movie. It all takes place on this train. I only watched it for the first time a couple of years ago after my friend Jamie recommended it to me. But man, I was absolutely blown away by this film. So as this guy and his daughter get on this train, a zombie outbreak is happening just as they leave the station. But that zombie outbreak comes and spills onto the train. And it's basically them trying to get to the front of the train because all these zombies are just taking it over carriage by carriage. What we see here is the real dark side of humans and how much they can be assholes. And it's all one man for himself, really. The humans can be the real villains of this movie. But the zombies are also great in this film. You know, they don't let up. They very, you know, they're chasing everyone down, and there's some real great little action scenes in here, you know, real fight scenes with these zombies, but it's just non-stop relentlessness. You're like, holy shit, man. You really get behind the main character and his daughter. You want them to survive this because, you know, you just latch onto them. But Train to Busan, man, it's one that really blew me away. It's one of the best zombie movies ever made, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, there wasn't really too many negatives with this film. So that is Train to Busan. Next up, we have Ari Aster's second movie, Midsummer. Now, this is something that is very, very Marmite. I've seen a lot of people slate this movie for being too arty, housey and stuff. But compared to some of the other films I've seen, you know, whether they're horror or not, that are art house, this is a bit more of a streamlined movie compared to a lot of them. And this just sees Florence Pugh, who a big, you know, a tragedy happens within her family at the start of the movie, and it's a really upsetting opening to this film. And she needs like a bit of support. So her boyfriend and his two friends are going to this, I think it's in Sweden, this like, it's like, I wouldn't say carnival, it's like a festival or something where all these people just gather every summer, and she decides to go along with them, you know, much to the annoyance of his friends. And they think that he shouldn't be with her and stuff because she's, you know, just a tag along and she's stopping him living his life or whatever. But anyway, they go there and it all seems fine at first, but some sinister things start to happen down the line. And this is a horror movie that just takes place in broad daylight. You know, that's what I love about it. It completely switches the whole feel of what a horror movie should be, but it just totally works. And there's some real hard-hitting moments in this film, especially with an old couple when they're going up this cliff, and what happens after that. I was like, holy shit. And this movie just captivated me from the start. It takes a lot of inspiration, I think, from The Wicker Man, but I'm not going to lie, guys, I actually prefer this to The Wicker Man, to be honest. And it's a movie that really just takes its time to build the story, but it all sort of makes sense within the end as well. And I just really, really loved it. I did. I'm definitely in the positive jar on this one instead of I'm in the glass half full jar with this one, because a lot of people just don't like it. But like I said, it's a Marmite movie, and Florence Pugh is just fantastic in this film. You know, I think this role really set her off to get up the ladder a little bit more there, because she was just incredible, and it really got me excited for what Ari Aster can do next. Unfortunately, that movie was Be Always Afraid, which I wasn't a fan of, but Midsummer, man, what a fantastic film, and one of the best A24 films that they've brought out, in my opinion. So that is Midsummer. Next up, though, we do have another Ari Aster movie, and that is Hereditary. Now, this could be split between Midsummer. I never actually know which one is better. On another day, Midsummer could be above Hereditary. They're just both incredible movies, but this is Ari Aster's directional debut, and I thought this was one of the best modern horror movies I'd seen when I watched it at the time. And I thought, you know what, that felt like something fresh, something different, something original. And I couldn't get it out of my head for days. And this sort of focuses around the character of Dev Patel and his family. And something happens about 30 minutes into the film, and it's an absolute what the fuck moment, like a holy shit moment. And then things just spiral from then. You know, it's really hard to explain this film without giving away any plot details, but the movie does focus on bloodlines and stuff. And we got Toni Collette in there giving an absolute masterful performance as the mother of this family. You know, a lot of people scream that she should have been nominated for an Oscar, and I totally agree. It's one of the best acting performances I have ever seen in my life. But this movie is not a horror film that relies on jump scares or big loud sound effects. It just creeps you out with what is happening in the story. It doesn't rely on that at all. And by the end of the film, I was like, holy shit, that was really, really clever. And it left me with goosebumps. I was like, you know what, that was a chilling tale there. So like I said, it's really hard to get into more details without giving it away, guys. But if you have not checked out Hereditary, I definitely think you should give it a go. And if you like that, you probably might like Midsummer as well, because I think this director is a real talented guy. He didn't quite get the 3 home runs with Bo Was Afraid. I know a lot of people do like that film, but I was really disappointed in it. But he's got another film coming out soon. I've just seen it announced before doing this video. And I hope he goes back to the horror genre, because he really can master it. So excited to see what he can do in future. But these are 2 absolutely brilliant films, and it just shows how good they are. They're modern horror movies, and they're in my top 30 of all time. And they only came out within the last 5 years. So that is Midsummer. Sorry, that is Hereditary. After Midsummer, sorry. Next up, we have The Silence of the Lambs. Now, a lot of people might be pointing at the screen here saying that's a thriller movie, but nah, I don't think it is. I mean, there's people being skinned in this movie. There is a cannibal biting people's faces off. It's got a very, very dark atmosphere. I mean, this for me is a horror movie, and it's got a chilling score to go with it. But this sees Jodie Foster trying to track down this Buffalo Bill character, who's this serial killer going around skinning women, and she needs the help of Dr. Hannibal Lecter, who is this cannibal, who is a really smart guy, but he's been locked up in this high security mental facility. But he may have links to this Buffalo Bill character, so she goes and interviews him a couple of times as a detective trying to crack the case. And it's just a really intriguing film. It grips you from start to finish, and you are just pulled right into this movie, and it can't let go. I mean, it's one of them you just get totally invested in. Some really chilling scenes in this film. That scene where Buffalo Bill kidnaps that woman into the van, it's just so realistic. Feels like that could really happen in real life, and it does quite a lot around the world, sadly. And then we've got a great scene where Hannibal Lecter sort of escapes. I just think it's a masterfully done moment in movie history. He's only on the screen for about 15 minutes. I think it's less, actually, but man, he just stands out like a sore thumb in this movie. He is unbelievable in this film. You cannot take your eyes off him. Jodie Foster leading the line is incredible. You know, she is an elite actress now. She really is. She can do anything with ease, but it just shows how talented she has been throughout her career with this film. I just think it's unbelievable. And the final scene, you're like, holy shit, it is edgy or seat stuff. So if you haven't seen Silence of the Lambs, a real great, dark, gritty horror crime thriller, I definitely think you should give it a go. It's one of the greatest movies ever made, not just one of the greatest horror films. So that is Silence of the Lambs. Next up, just missing out on the top 10, The Lost Boys. Now, this is one of my most rewatched horror movies of all time. I've done a top 10 most rewatchable horror movies video. I'll leave that in the link down below. And The Lost Boys was actually in the top 10. I think it might have even cracked the top 5. But as an overall best, it just misses out on the top 10 here, unfortunately. But this is one of, if not the best, vampire flick ever made. It's such a fun movie, and it sees these 2 brothers, Sam and Michael, with their mother, move to Santa Carla, which is the murder capital of the world. And it's like this sort of seaside town, you know, where everyone parties at night and stuff, and they're just going out, you know, and enjoying the sights. And then Michael runs into this guy called David and his gang of vampires, basically, and a very dark path for Michael starts to ensue when he sort of gets in with this gang. He doesn't quite know what they are at first, but he starts to become this vampire along with them, and it's up to Sam and the Frog Brothers, who are great characters here, to save Michael and sort of put a stop to these vampires that are just killing people off around the town. Kiefer Sutherland is excellent in this film as David, like the head vampire of this gang. There's some great music in this movie, like one of the best soundtracks you'll ever hear. Not just the theme tune, Cry Little Sister, but you got Lost in the Shadows and Tim Capello with that Still Believe. Man, what a song that is. I used to play that all the time. Yeah, it's just a real. There's a lot of comedy in there, but the horror works well with it. Like, it intertwines with it. It overlaps itself and balances out brilliantly, I think. And gets a fine line. Joel Schumacher really done great with this movie. So for me, I've got to put the Lost Boys in there. You know, that party scene in the middle of the film as well, even though it's kind of a fun movie, that's a hard-hitting scene where David and his gang just start taking these people out by this campfire and stuff. So yeah, it's a total staple of the 80s as well. Like, this has got 80s written all over this movie. So definitely worth checking out. A film that absolutely just flies by and you can have such an entertainment value with. That is The Lost Boys. Next up, we have a movie from a franchise I've already named in this film when I talked about the original, but this is part 3, and this is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. Now, this is the film that actually got me into horror. I used to sneak over to my friend's house, and he had Child's Play 2 and A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge, but I could only ever watch snippets of them because I was quite scared. My other friend next door, Vicky, had Friday the 13th. I used to watch that quite a bit, and unbelievably, she had Troll 2 as well. But I could never conjure up the courage to watch them films all the way. Now, one day, my mum would not, she wouldn't let me watch horror, but one day she actually gave in, and my dad came home from a car boot sale, believe it or not, and he said, I've got you this film, you know, go and enjoy. And it was A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. I've been asking to watch Freddy properly, you know, for such a long time. And he brought this one home for me. Now, I went upstairs, I plucked up the courage, and I watched it. And man, I just had the greatest time with this film. And from then on, I was a horror fan. Now, this is a better story than the first one for me, personally. I mean, the first one, I'm not knocking at anything, is great. I just like this one because it takes place in the mental institute, and all these characters are experiencing the same dream, basically. Like Freddy coming for them at night, and I love the different characters in this movie. But then we get Nancy, who comes along, and she's like the legendary character to try and help these kids overcome their dreams and beat Freddy once and for all, because no one believes them. You know, all the nurses and doctors think they're crazy, but us as a viewer know they're telling the truth because we've experienced 2 Freddy films before this, and Nancy is there to give them support and, you know, believe them. And just like I said, there's some great characters in there. You got Kincaid, you know, you got Taron, who I think is great. You got Jennifer, who just wants to be this actress. But when they go into the dreams, they are able to sort of gain these supernatural powers because it's a dream and it's your mind and you are the creative one. So Kincaid can become super strong and starts bending all these metal bars and stuff. Taron looks badass with this punk rocker hairdo and these knives, you know. And there's this guy who wants to be a wizard and he becomes the wizard master. It sounds really silly, but it just works for the movie, I think. We've got a perfect balance of Freddy Krueger here. He's like comedic, but very, very darkly comedic, and also very, very sinister. It's just a perfect balance of the character.
I said, where's the fucking bourbon?
It's like when he's killing these people, like Jennifer, who wants to be the actress, she shoves her head into the TV and says, ready for prime time, bitch. You know? So many great one-liners. The practical effects in this movie are top-notch. You know, I just think there's a moment in this movie where Freddy's like this big snake and it looks better than what it did in Freddy vs. Jason because they just CGI'd that bitch to death. You know, there's a great kill scenes in this, so many creative ones where Philip's walking along, you know, he's into puppets and stuff, and then Freddy uses him as a puppet with his veins and everything, and he's walking along and it leads him to his death. It's a real fun film, a real entertaining watch, and I just think it's my favourite Freddy film. You know, it's a film that is so important to me in my life, and it has to be in the top 10. So that is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. Next up, we have Ridley Scott's Alien. Now, I have not put Aliens on this list because I do think it's more of an action-orientated film, that one, but it is in my top 5 movies of all time. But this one, as a pure sci-fi horror film, I think it qualifies more than Aliens, put it that way. This follows this crew who are going to investigate this distress call on this planet that is, no one knows really anything about it, and they discover some eggs there, and this creature jumps out at one of the characters, John Hurt's character, and covers his face, basically. And the crew end up getting it off, and they're all just having dinner, and then one of the greatest movie scenes of all time happens, where this face hugger has implanted an actual alien inside John Hurt's character. It jumps through his chest, and next minute the alien is off and lost on the spaceship. And this alien intends to take down the entire crew, so it's picking them all off one by one. Now this movie just builds so much tension. You know, it takes its time, but it just builds it so well. Like, the pacing is excellent, even though it's slow. It just works with what the movie's going for. You know, there's some real high stakes here, you feel, with characters. One wrong move and that's it, that they're gone. Sigourney Weaver, you know, one of the big first female action protagonists, I feel. Or, no, I say action, but she's kicking ass in this movie, really. It is a horror film, but she is excellent in this film, and you don't really know, you know, she's one of the quieter ones at the start of the movie, but I think that's what works for her character, because she grows into this arc to be this badass who's, you know, gonna take this xenomorph down. I love the design of the xenomorph. You know, it doesn't show us it too much, you know, it just shows us glimpses here and there as the movie goes on, but you know, it's an absolute killer machine and one of the greatest movie creature designs ever. You know, and I love seeing Ripley just take this thing on this spaceship. She's all alone, basically. And this thing is an absolute killer machine that she's going up against. So I think Alien is just a fantastic film, and a couple of little twists and turns along the way involving an android that is on board and stuff. So yeah, for me, Alien has to be in the top 10. An absolute brilliant film from Ridley Scott. Next up, we have the Blair Witch Project. Now, a lot of people might say, are you really putting this on there? But you've got to remember that this came out at a time where I hadn't seen anything like this before. I know found footage had been out before this, but not like this, man, in my opinion. Now, there's a lot of talk about this film before it came out, saying it's one of the scariest films ever made and stuff like that. And when it came to the video shop, I asked my dad if I could rent it, and he said, yeah, okay, we'll watch it. So I watched it with my mum and dad, and oh my God, man, I will never forget that night, because I was literally shaking. I could not sleep all night. I went to bed and kept thinking I was seeing the Blair Witch shadow, you know, the little twigs that they make, the shadow of that on my wall. And no, it wasn't there, but psychologically it was. I was just sweating, tossing and turning. I could not sleep all night. It was just the worst, most terrifying experience, but the movie done its job. This follows this crew of 3 people who are going to investigate this urban legend of this Blair Witch that might live in these woods, and they're asking the townsfolk around, have they heard of it? And they're all saying yeah and stuff. And they get lost in the woods, basically, and the more the movie goes on, you just realise that they're not getting out of these damn woods, man. And it's everything is built around what you don't see. Now, simple things just make this film terrifying. Like, they're lost, they've been lost for 3 days, and they come back to the same spot, and they're just like, oh my God, are they ever getting out? But they're waking up from their tent, and as they go outside the tent, piles of rocks have been built up and stuff. They're seeing things, you know, in the woods and from a distance. And it's just really, really scary, man. I mean, this might not be in today's found footage standard as scary, but I did watch it with my wife a few years ago. She'd never seen it, and she was actually freaked out by this film. And for me, because of the job it done on me and that experience I had, it's got to be in my top 10 horror movies ever, because it was so terrifying. And it's probably one of the most terrifying. It's up there with one of, if not the most terrifying film I've ever seen. Now, I know Final Destination psychologically got in my head, but as an actual scary movie, I think the Blair Witch is got to be it, because, man, no film's ever made me feel like that since. So that is the Blair Witch Project. Next up, we have Saw. Now, this is a movie that really felt like an original film. You see these 2 guys who are locked in this bathroom, basically. They're chained by their ankles, and they don't know how to get out. And the whole room that they're in is like a little bit of a puzzle, and they have to find their way out of it. Now, this has all been set up by a guy called Jigsaw, who wants to punish people for not living their life properly or making mistakes in their life, and they want to learn from it, basically. So if they get out, they will have learned their lesson, and after they're close shave with death, basically. It's a real cool concept. There's one moment in this where this drug addict, Amanda, she gets out of the trap and she says after it, "Oh my God, I appreciate life now. I've never took a drug ever since," to prove that Jigsaw's plan does actually work. His theory works, basically. But this is a film that basically you just constantly unraveling the plot as it goes along. There are things that the characters might be hiding in the film. We have flashbacks here and there to detectives trying to investigate this Jigsaw killer and stuff. And the third act for me is fantastic. It really is, when everything starts to uncover. But the ending to this film has got to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, horror movie ending of all time. When I seen this ending, my jaw hit the floor. I could not believe it. I get goosebumps just thinking about it now, with the music when it kicks in and stuff. It really is just something that I'll never forget. I really won't. And I've seen this film many times since, and I just think it's a really, really well done, dark, gritty crime horror movie. Everything about it is just fantastic to me. Now, I know this has gone on to be a big franchise, but this one is definitely the best. I love the second one as well. It's probably one of the best horror sequels I've ever seen. But the first one, man, for me, is just it's a damn near masterpiece for me. And this only came from two college students, Lee Winnell and James Wan, and they just came up with the idea. And look at them now. Lee Winnell is off on his directing career, and he's hit out some bangers already. And James Wan is just a master of the modern horror genre now, isn't he? And it all started with Saw. So it's a fantastic film. Highly recommend, with a great twist at the end as well. That is Saw. Next up, we do have Candyman. Now, this is a film, that was one of the first horror movies I ever watched, and this film absolutely terrified me as a kid as well. It was only just after my little journey of starting horror with A Nightmare on Elm Street that my dad brought this home from the video shop, and I felt like saying, "Dad, what the hell are you doing bringing this home for me? Ease me in a little bit." But it was the moment where the guy is in the toilet and his penis has been chopped off. I was like, I paused the movie and liked it down the stairs. I was like, "Holy shit, what the hell is this?" But this is basically a film that is pure horror to me. It's about this Candyman character who's this urban myth, basically, this urban legend, and it's up to Helen and her friend to investigate this Candyman character. And apparently, if you say his name in a mirror 5 times, he will come. And Helen ends up doing that, and her life just spirals into a just downward negative path, and she cannot escape the clutches of this Candyman. Now, Tony Todd plays the Candyman so well. He's got this real hypnotic, mesmerizing voice that just draws you in.
Be my victim. Be my victim.
There's so many gory moments in this film. Like I said, the penis chopping scene and stuff. Helen's friend really does get butchered in this movie. The ending as well. There's just blood all over the place in this film, but it's got a real deep story to it. There's a real background and rich history involving Candyman and why he's doing this. He was not treated great, when he was younger and stuff like that. And he is punishing this town of Cabrini Green, basically. So I just think it's a real fresh concept, especially at the time, something original from the mind of Clive Barker once again. And I have a little bit of a personal attachment to it because this is based on a short story. I can't remember, I think it's called The Forgotten. I might be wrong there, but it is based in Liverpool, where I'm from, so that's always interesting. But Candyman, man, I mean, it's just a movie that is just unbelievable to me. It really is pure horror, like I said. That is Candyman. Okay, top 5 now, baby, and we do have 1978's Halloween. Now, this is a film that really just grows on me every time I watch it. It's just such a simple slasher film from John Carpenter, but man, he just squeezes the juice out of that lemon as much as he can and gets everything out of that low budget and puts it on screen, and it just really hasn't aged a day, really. And this is Michael Myers, who kills his older sister at the age of 6 at the start of the movie, and is locked up for the next 15 years. But he does actually escape and comes back to Haddonfield to wreak havoc on Laurie Strode and the babysitters of the town, basically. And that is it. That is just a simple concept, but John Carpenter just gets everything masterfully right in this film. We hadn't seen too many movies like this beforehand. I know we had the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Black Christmas and stuff. This one just feels like the ultimate real slasher to me from the first slashers that came out. And it's basically John Carpenter really makes everything work with the camera, where he points it, the music that he composed, the score, one of the most iconic horror movie themes ever, and he plays it in all the right places. For example, there's this kid who runs out of school and bumps into Michael Myers and drops this pumpkin, and that's when the music comes on, and then we just follow Michael walking along these school gates looking for Laurie Strode, and the music's playing in the background. All chilling vibes like that. The look of Michael Myers, just a very simple boiler suit with this William Shatner mask that has been painted white. It's just an iconic mask now, isn't it? So there's some real cool kills in this as well. I mean, not the best of the franchise, but I really like where Michael sort of puts a killer outfit over the killer outfit he's already wearing, with that sheet over his head and stuff like that when he kills Paul. The ending to this film as well, you're just like, holy shit, what is happening there? Again, the music comes into that, and we've got a good final girl. She's not my personal favorite final girl, Jamie Lee Curtis is Laurie Strode here, but a lot of people think she's the ultimate scream queen. I don't quite agree with that, but I do like her in the first 2 Halloween films, not so much the later ones. Donald Pleasance, is just my favorite Halloween character in the entire franchise. Is fantastic here. No one listens to him. He's just right about everything, and he is definitely down to stop Michael Myers. He's out there and he will not stop, because he knows how evil this killer is. He's been working with him for the past 15 years, and he just knows that he can't let Michael be loose, because he's just capable of carnage, basically. Yeah, a fantastic film. It really is. I don't just watch it every Halloween, although I do mostly, but you can watch this any time of the year, I think. It's all really got the Halloween holiday just themed right in there as well. The streets are decorated brilliantly and stuff. It feels like October, put it that way. So that is Halloween. Next up, we have Dawn of the Dead. Now, I know this is a trilogy from George A. Romero, but this one is definitely the best for me. Now, my nan used to introduce me to this film and zombie flesh eaters, and she used to let us watch it in her house with lots of goodies and stuff, lots of sweets and chocolate. And it was either this or zombie flesh eaters, but Dawn of the Dead is the one that really has grew on me over the years. I just think this is such a fun zombie flick. Now, what I love about this more than anything is the location that this movie takes place in. You got these 4 characters who are escaping the city because of this zombie outbreak, and they go to this shopping mall and hold themselves up in there, and they kind of try and lock the shopping mall up from the zombies and that, and they've got the shops all to themselves and stuff. There's a montage scene in here where they're just having fun in the shopping mall because they've got it to themselves, and it's one of my favorite scenes in the film. But nothing great lasts forever, does it? And the zombies are the last of their problems, really. But we've got some great characters in here. Flyboy, who recently left us, sadly, rest in peace. But we've got Ken Faree's character, Keenan Rockmore's dad, going around with a sniper rifle here, just blowing zombies' heads off. I mean, what more do you want? These characters are people you like. You latch onto them, and you want them to survive this outbreak, basically. But there's so many gory scenes in here as well. Like, there's a guy who, I don't know why he puts himself on the blood pressure machine, but he does, and then all these zombies just rip him apart. It's just a film that it's just so entertaining. I love when the zombie steps on that block as well, and the helicopter blades are going around, and his head just gets taken off by the helicopter. Yeah, just a great zombie flick. It really is, and the best zombie flick ever made for me. So that is Dawn of the Dead. Next up, we have The Shining. Now, Stephen King definitely won't have this in his top 30 horror movies at all time because he's not a fan of it, of course. But Stanley Kubrick, I think, done a great job of adapting the novel here. Now, this is one of the first horror movies I ever watched when I was starting to allow to watch horror movies, and it absolutely terrified the life out of me. And I still think it's quite creepy to this day. But I just remember watching this in the pitch black, and something scary would happen on screen, and then the screen would just go black and it'd say Tuesday or something on there, and I used to be like, okay, turn the lights on now. I've just seen some horrifying images and I'm sitting in the pitch black. But this basically sees Jack Torrance, who goes with his wife Wendy and son Danny to stay in this overlook hotel for the winter, and sort of be a maintenance guy and just look after the place. And he thinks it's a great time to go here because he's a writer, he's got a bit of writer's block, and he wants the isolation and the peace and quiet so he can concentrate on his writing. And when they get there, they discover that something really bad happened at the hotel years before, where this guy killed his family. And as the movie goes on, Jack Torrance really starts to lose his mind a little bit and become a crazed madman. And Jack Nicholson absolutely pulls off, the acting here. The role he's playing is great. He's real psychotic in this movie, and you really do fear for his wife Wendy, played by Shelley Duvall, who looks absolutely terrified in this film. And his son Danny has got this shining ability where he can sort of talk to people through the mind, and that plays into the movie a lot as well.
How'd you like some ice cream, Doc?
But there's some real haunting imagery on screen here where the two murdered twins are just flashing on the screen. We've got Room 237, which is a horror movie scene that I will never forget. It's one of the best horror movie scenes of all time, isn't it? Let's be honest. I mean, when Jack realized what the hell he was kissing the face off there, I was like, oh my god, that is terrifying. And it's a real clever film. It's just one of them. The score in this movie as well, it's just so haunting, and I can hear it now in my head. It's just, it's horrifying, basically. But what a film this is. Deals with isolation brilliantly, I think. So that is The Shining. Next up, we have Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, just missing out on first place. But the more I watch this film, the more I realise how much of a masterpiece it actually is. Now, this sees this young woman who basically robs a bit of money from the place that she works, and she goes and on the run, and she comes across this motel, Bates Motel. She decides to stay there the night, and she meets this guy played by Anthony Perkins, Norman Bates, who runs the motel, and he seems like a real charming guy, real inviting character, but there's something slightly off about him. And something happens in the middle of the movie, that shower scene you'll probably heard of, and it's kind of like a roles reversed movie. Not roles reversed, but something you didn't really expect it to happen. And I imagine at 1960, you just can't believe that. And the movie does sort of go off and focus on some new characters, so I think that's a clever touch from Alfred Hitchcock at the time. He's kind of a master of his craft, isn't he? And throwing the audience off. And he doesn't only just throw the audience off there, but the ending as well. You're like, holy shit. It's a great twist ending as well. I think Anthony Perkins is fantastic in this film as Norman Bates, one of the most iconic horror movie characters of all time. We've got the great music in there, that shower scene as well, man. How many shots did they have there? How many edits? I mean, I think there's a documentary just made on that scene alone. There's great, great performances all around. It just feels like a golden age of cinema when you're watching this movie. I think I love the way Hitchcock directs it. He even throws himself in there at one point, like he does in a lot of his movies. But yeah, I mean, it's just a wonderful, wonderful horror movie. It really is, and I had to put it in this top 30, of course, and it's very, very high on the list. So that is Psycho. Number one, though, is going to be Tobe Hooper's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, this is a film, when I first watched it, that I wasn't really too big on. I just thought it was going to be full of more blood after all the things I'd heard. I thought it was going to be a little bit more than it was. But over the years, I just appreciated it even more, and I just watch it all the time now. And it has grew to be my #1 horror movie of all time. Now, the reason I love this film is because of how realistic it is. Now, what scares me about horror movies aren't ghosts or monsters, really, although they did a bit when I was a kid, but it's humans. Humans are real. They are capable of so much nightmarish stuff, and this movie absolutely shows that. This focuses on a family of cannibals living in the outback of Texas, and is that too hard to believe that there is a family of cannibals out in the outbacks of Texas now? I don't think that's too hard to believe at all. But this follows Sally and a group of friends who basically go and visit their old grandma's house, their old relative, it's Sally's grandma. They go and visit their house just for a road trip, and they come across Leatherface, who only lives not far away, and the movie just is nightmare fuel from that point on. You know, Leatherface, who played by Gunnar Hansen brilliantly, you know, he's making faces, he's making masks out of people's faces and stuff. You know, he's running around with a chainsaw. His two brothers are absolute psychopaths. You know, the hitchhiker and the guy who works in the cook. You know, and you're just watching this nightmare unfold for Sally. Now, there's some real great shots in this film from Tobe Hooper. The scene where he's following Pam's from behind. I'm not saying it's because her ass looks good. It's just a great shot of Pam and the house there. You know, he's got some real visual treats in this movie, I think. He makes this movie feel documented. He makes it feel realistic and gritty. And, you know, the low budget it had just benefits the movie so well, I think. And there's a third act that really did used to grate on me, where Sally is just screaming her ass off. The more I watch it now, I think it's probably one of the best things about the film, because she's really has been filming that part for over 24 hours there, and you can tell it's mentally got to her, because they only had a day of filming left. And she, you know, when she was filming that, she was hot and everything, and it was just getting to her, and it just pays off for the movie so well, I think. It's just a brilliant film. It really is. One that flies by. It's only 80 minutes long, 83 minutes, I think. I can watch this right now, and I'll probably even notice more things about it. I went to watch it on the big screen a couple of years ago, and that was just a brilliant experience. Yeah, I don't. It's really hard to talk about a movie so much when there's so many different things you could say in such a short amount of time. But I will review this on the channel one day, I'm sure. So that is #1, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay, guys, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you want to leave some of your favorite horror movies down below in the comments, I'll get back to you all, I promise. What did you think of my list? Do you think it sucks? Do you think it's good? Do you agree with some of my picks? Do you disagree? Please do let me know, and I'll get back to you all, I promise. We'll get a bit of a discussion going. And if you want more top 10s or movie lists, they will be down below in the description as well. So thanks so much, everyone. You take care, and I'll see you on the next video.